Good evening. Today is Thursday, July 27th, 2023, and welcome to the regular meeting session of the Milford School Committee. This meeting is being broadcast by Milford TV, and copies can be obtained at the request of this board or through central office. Good to see everybody tonight. Our first agenda item will be the approval of minutes. We have a few of the regular session minutes and the special meeting session to look over. The first set of minutes will be from the regular meeting held on June 1st, 2023. Looking for any discussion on those?
One quick note.
Yes.
I don't know how much this matters, but the person who came for invitation to speak, his name's just spelled incorrectly in the minutes.
Okay.
It says Mr.
And we
Rhodes.
we can change that. I already got that feedback.
Okay.
Yes, great.
But
Thank
thank
you
you.
on that one. So, sorry on that one. That's the June 1st. Yeah, the invitation to speak, I believe, it was, Megan, you also had said that it was Rose and it should have been Rhodes.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
so no problem. So looking for any other questions or comments on the June 1st meeting minutes? So looking for a motion to accept the meeting minutes as corrected for the invitation to speak named from Rose to Rhodes, R-H-O-D-E-S. Motion by Robin, second by Matt. All in favor? And that is unanimous. Excellent. The next one listed is our executive session minutes on June 1st. And also our executive session minutes from June 12th. I'm going to request that we pass over these. There were some edits that were sent over via email. Because they're executive session minutes, I think it's in our best interest to not discuss those changes in open session, as they're just being approved and not released. So we will handle those on our next meeting. Then from there, we will approve the minutes from the regular session held on June 15th. Any questions or discussions on the June 15th, 2023 minutes from regular session? Not seeing any, so looking for a motion to accept. Motion by Megan, second by Matt, then all in favor. So that's going to be 4 in favor, and then 2 abstentions?
Correct.
And then 2 abstentions. And then the last one will be the minutes of the special meeting held on June 21st, 2023. Any discussion there? Not seeing any. Oh, go ahead. Rob.
I just noticed that Mr. Rickards noted as both present and absent for that meeting.
On the June 21st?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
And
a special skill I have.
and you were
I had pneumonia.
not there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the June 21st, Mr. Rickards was not there. So we'll looking for a motion to approve the special meeting for June 21st with the clarification that Mr. Richter was not there. So motion by Robin, second by Matt, and then all in favor. And that is going to be 5 in favor and 1 abstention. Excellent. All right. Moving on to announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Any announcements, correspondence, distributions? Not seeing any. Moving on to invitation to speak. No one's here for invitation to speak. So moving on to our policy second read for the wellness policy, which is file JL. Robin, would you like to take care of that?
Sure.
Thank
so
you.
This is, I believe was the last meeting, we brought this forward for a first read. And so this is the wellness policy that has been updated. It was presented initially by the former director of nursing, and there were some edits made by the policy subcommittee. Since last time, the only changes that have been made were very minor. On page 4, there's a small, it was really more of a grammatical change. So on page 4 of 6, the second to last paragraph, the second sentence, it now says through evidence-based programs instead of having the words such as in there. Those were removed, so really that was more of a grammatical change. And then the only other change to highlight for the committee is on page 6 under present an annual report to the Milford School Committee, that for the second bullet point where it says school-based mental health personnel, the word counselors was just changed to personnel to be more inclusive of all of the school mental health staff that we have. So those are the only changes since the first read that I wanted to highlight.
Excellent. Great. Thank you for Robin. Any questions on that policy JL, on the wellness policy? Not seeing any, so looking for this being a second read, we'll vote it into, to be into effect. So looking for a motion to accept policy file JL. Motion by John, second by Megan, and then all in favor. So that is unanimous. Great. Thank you very much, Robin. All right. Then moving on to our 2022-2023 superintendent evaluation. First part of it will be the just the review of the evaluation timeline. I believe I sent everybody via email. Hope everybody got that. There's just the timeline that I put on in front of you on your desk. So again, the June 21st, which was last Friday, the superintendent had provided the committee his self-evaluation and evidence. So that was linked up. So everybody, I'm assuming, has received that. Today being July 27th, we're at this scheduled meeting where we'll review the evidence presented by the superintendent, and then again looking ahead. So August 11th, looking for that as a deadline for the committee to submit their review to myself, and then also you can CC the superintendent on that review. And then between that time, I will compile all of our reviews and present at the August 24th committee meeting. I guess just looking ahead, everybody look like they can attend that August 24th meeting. So, all right, excellent. So I think it's just, or maybe not.
I cannot.
Okay,
Sorry.
no problem.
Messing your schedule up?
No, let's. All right. Let me,
It shouldn't go on without me if you do.
Let me see what we can do. I'll throw out a couple dates to the committee, or have Melissa throw out a couple dates to the committee to see if we can work around that. Are you away all of that week? Okay. And then I guess I'll just quickly ask, the week before or the week after, any committee members gone for any significant amount of time during that time frame?
I'm not available on the following Thursday, the 31st.
Okay.
And I'm away the week before.
And does the week before give enough time to compile everything?
Yeah, I know, so that would be tough. John, are you only not available on that Thursday?
Only the Thursday.
Only the Thursday, so potentially maybe if we shifted to a Wednesday meeting, Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, we could also give a quick update on the first couple of days of school, too. I
Yeah,
think we're,
yeah.
what are we, Wednesday, is Wednesday the first day?
So-
Yep.
Yeah, Wednesday's the first day of school.
Okay.
So I can give an update on the first day of school, too, if that works for people.
Okay, so we'll
Which would
work.
be kind of timely.
So we'll work through that. Okay, all right. No problem. So any questions on the timeline? I know obviously we'll revise that August 24th time, so gives me maybe an extra few days to compile, which should be fine too. So, excellent. Very well. All right then, so moving on, we'll send it over to you, Dr. McIntyre, for
Great.
your self-evaluation and supporting documents. Just a kind of a quick overview if you want to.
Yeah, I'm going to try to run through it relatively
Yep.
quickly, but also hit on some points for the folks at home.
Yep.
I'm going to ask that you save your questions till the end, because I think there's a lot of rabbit holes to potentially go down.
You're looking at
And-
me, Kevin.
Well, you're directly across from me now, so now you're like, that feels like a guilty conscience
That was
to me.
not strategic.
All right, so here we go. And like I said, I'm going to try to go through this relatively quickly. I've shared a draft version of this information with you earlier in the year, and last Friday sent you a document that was an overview of my self-evaluation and goals and the supporting documents and evidence. First, I'm going to share the self-evaluation of the 4 standards and my overall self-evaluation. Next, I will provide an update on the goals and evidence connected to the goals. This will be followed by a review of the focus indicators, and we'll conclude with a view towards next year. One thing I'd like to do is get this process more front-loaded, and I think by even sharing some potential goals tonight, we can maybe do that. And obviously, I'm open to feedback. So if you want to, actually, Matt's already a step ahead of me. That's a good sign. It's much better than Consigli being on the slides. This slide provides my self-evaluation of. I put myself between proficient and exemplary, with ratings of proficient in instructional leadership and professional culture, and ratings of exemplary in management and operations and family and community engagement. Again, I'd like to provide the details for the goals and the focus indicators. If you go to the next slide. I state this every year, but I think it's critically important. I do want to read it. It's important to note that evidence for each of these goals represent the work of administrators, teachers, educators, and other team members across the district. There are examples of documents and agendas from organizations or groups that I participate in as a board member or team member. My goal is regularly represent the collective efforts and work of the Milford Public Schools team. I'm going to acknowledge some people through the process, but I'm going to miss some folks. So if you're watching at home, it doesn't mean I don't appreciate your work. I just wasn't able to kind of indicate everybody's great work. The other thing that I think is important is that this also represents the very good work of this committee. And I think a lot of the goals are things that we did together. So just really quickly, we're already up to slide 4. I like Matt's efficiency. I want to just quickly share some of the top accomplishments across the district. And the first one's critically important. We returned to a traditional schedule of academic and extracurricular activities after 3 pandemic-impacted years. And it felt a lot more like normal. And we're going to talk about a couple of the ways where it didn't feel like normal, but overall, I'd say we had a very positive year back from the pandemic. We had the implementation and rollout of the illustrative math curriculum in grades K through 5. We had the development of the 2023-2024 budget, which includes resources to support a growing and shifting student population. Successful completion of contract negotiations with the Milford Teachers Association, which is not a small accomplishment when you see what's happening across the state. Successful completion of initial contract negotiations with the Milford Behavioral Assistance Group. The district also secured more than $12.5 million in grants in the last 3 years that supported our students, families, and educators. And I will give Nancy Angelini just a shout out here for all the incredible work she's doing. And the gentleman to my left, Craig Consigli, who does a lot of work with foundations and grant providers. We also hired 2 attendance supervisors and a team to support improved attendance outcomes across the district. We're hiring more than 50 new educators. We've hired more than 52 educators going into the year to serve our students in classrooms, counseling, and therapist positions across the district. We offered a comprehensive training and professional development program for our educators across the district. And again, I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit more detail. But I give a lot of credit to Dr. Consigli and our department heads for doing just incredible work of providing just a wealth of opportunities for our educators and staff. Preparation for the installation and construction of 6 modular classrooms at Brookside Elementary School during the summer of '23, which is upon us, and I'm going to give an update on that a little bit later. And preparation for the installation and replacement of the turf field and track at Milford High School, which is also ongoing. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive list, but it represents critical work in a number of areas across the Milford Public Schools. Perfect. I wanted to quickly provide or share the affiliated groups where I either serve on the board or I'm a member. These groups provide support to our district in a number of important ways that I'm not going to go into this evening, but I do want to read them off. Bi-County Collaborative Board of Directors, Blackstone Valley Education Foundation Board of Directors, Hockomock Area YMCA Board of Incorporators, United Way of Tri-County Board Member, Massachusetts Urban Superintendents Network, Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, Worcester County Superintendent Roundtable, and the Blackstone Valley Superintendent Group. You jump to the next one. So all of these goals are aligned both to the standards and indicators of the superintendent evaluation document provided by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and strategic focus areas of our district's 3-year strategic plan. The first goal is a student learning goal, and it's to drive improvements in math instruction across the district in order to increase all students' academic achievement and critical thinking skills in mathematics through the implementation of a new mathematics curriculum at the elementary level and providing all of our students with access to rigorous and relevant mathematics tasks. So the status of this goal is complete. The curriculum was successfully implemented across the 3 elementary schools, and the program will be expanding to our middle school during the 23-24 school year. Now, when I say it's complete, it doesn't mean the work is done, but the implementation phase is complete, and I think successfully done. I do want to acknowledge the work of Carrie Taylor as the Director of Mathematics, Craig Consigli, our Assistant Superintendent, the Milford Public Schools Math Committee. The work they did was invaluable. Our elementary building-based administrative teams, our department heads, and our coaches for making this important work happen across the district. And I also have to recognize our teachers for really embracing a new math curriculum. Now, a lot of times when you replace a curriculum, it's a beloved old curriculum. This wasn't necessarily the case here, so it was a little bit of an easier transition. If you could jump to the next slide. That's a great picture from today of our 2 attendance supervisors hard at work. The goal is to improve daily attendance and reduce chronic absenteeism across the district. This goal will be a multi-year goal and is critical to the education recovery of all of our students. If you go to the next slide. We are in an attendance crisis, both locally and across the state and nationally. The world and how we engage with the world changed both during and after the pandemic. And this is impacting nearly every facet of society, from how we consume entertainment, to how people work or want to work, to how we use space for both employment purposes and entertainment and leisure. I just put a few headlines up because there's a lot happening currently around office space, around companies getting into conflicts with employees about returning to work, and attendance issues across the country in all schools. So some of the key actions for this goal were, again, hiring of the attendance supervisors, monthly meetings with district-wide attendance team to review trends and patterns in student attendance, review the efficacy of attendance interventions, discuss challenges and successes, and determine any adjustments to practice or strategies. We did a monthly review of attendance data, both at the building level and district-wide, monthly meetings with attendance supervisors, monthly meetings with building principals. Those two groups met together. There was one designee at each building who was the attendance liaison. It wasn't always the principal. It could have been one of the assistant principals. And then attending professional development focused on attendance and dropout prevention. The attendance supervisors also have outreached to other districts and gotten support from folks that have already been doing this work successfully. Our attendance supervisors also regularly attend court proceedings to discuss student and family issues related to chronic attendance issues. And attendance supervisors make regular contact with students and families at each of our 5 K-12 schools and are doing this throughout the summer as well. So the status of Goal 2 is incomplete and ongoing, and improving attendance will be a focus for the district for the next year, probably for the next few years is my guess. I think it's going to take some time to get folks back to the habit of regular and consistent school attendance. Milford, again, is a part of a larger chronic attendance issue facing schools across the state and nation, and I think we're going to do a lot of different things to kind of address this. Our attendance supervisors are also invaluable resources, but this is a job that we all need to engage in both the short and long-term improvements. I think if we had these two gentlemen prior to the pandemic, you'd see incredible impact on what was happening. I think the work right now is overwhelming, and I think we're going to need to provide some support to Victor and Dale. All right, so the next one is Goal 3, which is a district improvement goal, and this is improve the diversity of the Milford Public School staff through improvements to our practices for recruiting, selecting, and inducting and retaining staff. And I've talked about this one before, but I think it's worth saying again. I think we're very aggressive with recruitment. We've attended and hosted career fairs to attract highly qualified candidates to the Milford Public Schools. These have included Merck, Bridgewater State, Harvard Graduate School of Education, Boston College. We've hosted the Blackstone Valley District Fair. We've done some virtual fairs with DESE and Mass Hire, and we're going to do a couple more local fairs to focus on assistants and some other positions that are a little more challenging to both recruit and retain those folks. We submitted a grant to support licensure for current employees in partnership with LaSalle University. We've reviewed our interview and selection process for bias. We've reviewed retention data for teachers and administrators, and we've attended a number of training programs provided by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We're looking outward in our recruitment efforts and partnerships with the Department of Education and higher education partners, and inward by further developing the staff that we have. We've run a number of programs in partnership with Framingham State, Worcester State, LaSalle, that have supported either folks getting an additional license or moving forward in the licensure process from either an emergency or provisional license, which has been great. We have made significant progress in our recruitment of diverse staff members. Yep, you're already there. Our diverse educators have increased by 283.4% over the past 7 years. Additionally, we have more than 120 staff members who are multilingual. And this data does not include the current new class of educators, which is still a little bit of a work in progress, but mostly complete. And we'll add this information and share it with you over the next year. If you go to the next slide, we also have positive retention data. Our retention data is better than the state average due to focused efforts to support our staff through professional development and access to graduate courses and programs, and creating positive school environments where educators want to join our district and stay in our district. The one thing that I want to do is I want to look at our retention data compared to, and I didn't get a chance to do this past week because I was in an event, but compared to like the urban superintendents group and compared to our dark groups, just to kind of get another kind of data point. I think it's going to be favorable, though. We are successful in our recruitment efforts for teachers this spring and summer, but recruiting and retaining behavior and teaching assistants remains a challenge. I was just in an event, which I'm going to talk about a little bit at the end of this, with 8 other districts, and everybody was talking about how they're just really struggling to bring those, like, and everybody calls them different things, but they're basically our behavioral and teaching assistants into the district and keeping them. And we were all talking about how, what are some ways that we can kind of improve not only recruitment but retention. We're also competing for a shrinking pool of highly qualified candidates, and we'll continue to need to be creative and purposeful in our efforts. And we have hired so far 49 educators this spring and summer. And like I sent to you an update, I think it was last week, I think there's like 5 positions we're still hiring for. 3 of those opened up after the end of the school year. All right, so goal 3 status. I'd say this is ongoing. And this is something we may keep as a goal or we may shift because it's been a goal the last couple of years, and it's something we're going to continue to do, whether it's a goal or not. But increasing cultural and linguistic diversity will continue to be a priority for the Milford Public Schools in the hiring process over the next several years. If we jump to, slide 12, the district improvement goal is goal 4, and that's a complete review of the facilities across the Milford schools, which will include focused work with the Milford School Committee, Facility Subcommittee, either resubmit a statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority or move forward in the next steps of the process. Unfortunately, we resubmitted another proposal, and then oversee the installation of the Brookside Elementary School addition. So we have made significant progress here with the current implementation of the track and turf project at Milford High School, and if you've seen it, it just looks awesome. It looks incredible. The field is striking. The installation of the modular addition at Brookside Elementary School is underway, and I'm going to give you an update on that in a little bit. And we're waiting on our response for the submission of the statement of interest to the MSBA for the high school building project. We got a number, I think it was $897 million is what's available. If you consider like a typical high school project between $200 and $300 million, that's not a lot of projects that they're going to be able to support. And I don't know if that number is going to expand or not. I haven't heard a whole lot about that, but the cost of construction is escalating, and I don't think the resources to get buildings done is really kind of following along with that. John, I know you follow this closely. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Not really anything to add. Not about the cost of construction really, because they're just through the roof, as everybody knows, but the amount of money that the state has for this program is based on a percentage of the sales tax, so it's not sort of something that anybody can advocate to increase, as far as I know, without changing
The process,
legislation,
which would
yeah.
probably be a pretty significant undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
So we're also in the process of completing the hiring and onboarding of the new facilities team. Carlos Pena, the new department leader, has been engaging in a number of activities throughout the summer, including learning and assessing our systems in each of our 5 buildings, working with each building's administrative and custodial team to understand challenges and priorities, addressing issues as they arise, and supporting projects across the district. I plan to have Carlos come in to meet the full committee and start to engage with the facility subcommittee in the coming weeks and probably a meeting in September. And this is an area that, again, will be a focus in the 2023-2024 school year. And the status of Goal 4 is, I would say, ongoing. I think we need, the facility subcommittee will become more active during the 23-24 school year, and I think we need to looking at updating our long-range facilities plan, because that plan is, I don't have the year, I think it's 6 or 7 years old at this point. So the focus indicators that I asked you to provide feedback on, there are 4 of them. It's data-informed decision-making, implementing a cohesive approach to recruiting, hiring, induction, development, and career growth, communication, and continuous learning. And I'm gonna provide just some quick updates on each of these, if you bear with me. So data-informed decision-making, I think, is a focus and embedded practice in our district. And I'd like to highlight a few areas where this is being done effectively. Student enrollment data was used to determine new personnel initiative needs for the 23-24 school year budget. I think our principals have become very effective at looking at their staffs, looking at their needs, projecting out, and making recommendations. We're going to have a conversation about that towards the end of the meeting tonight. The Brookside Elementary principal, assistant principal, and instructional coach completed data dives using iReady data for every student in the area of reading to cross-reference student progress and the appropriateness of students receiving or which students should receive reading intervention services. Stacy Middle School reviewed iReady math and MCAS math data to support the request and need for 2 math specialist roles for this upcoming school year to shift the structure of the math partial inclusion programming, which will next year be co-taught by a math specialist and a special education teacher, and adjusted classroom planning and lessons based on trends and patterns in the data they were seeing. Stacy Middle School used the SQM data, which is the MCIA data dashboard that we've been using for the last several years, to discuss school climate, student engagement, and instructional practices that resulted in the creation of a school climate and culture committee, develop behavior norms and common language, SEL extended homeroom blocks once a month, and standards-based lesson planning and assessment. It's more of a culture work focused data point. Milford High School reviewed the initial impact analysis of attendance interventionists by examining pre- and post-intervention attendance data to evaluate initial impact in the first quarter. The data showed substantial evidence of positive impact when there's a direct intervention by one of our attendance supervisors, and the data was presented as part of Josh's 24 budget request. The Milford High School also completed a semester 1 analysis of the correlation between attendance and GPA. They examined term-by-term outcomes for attendance and academic achievement for subgroups, and unfortunately found substantial declines in outcomes from term to term, persistent gaps between subgroups, and persistent correlations between attendance and achievement across all subgroups. With our implementation of illustrative mathematics, we administered a qualitative survey for staff members in November of '22. This data was then analyzed in school-based teams, and math committee members and curriculum team leaders created action steps for the schools to address concerns in the survey. This was another just example of why the implementation of the illustrative math was successful. And let me just I think that's good. I've got a whole list of them, but I just wanted to provide some examples. 2, implements a cohesive approach to recruiting, hiring, induction, development, and career growth that promotes high quality and effective practice. I think I've shared this when we talked about the goals, so I'm not gonna rehash this one. Communication. There's about 4 or 5 things I do want to highlight. We have regular communication via email that happens both at the district level and the school level, which is translated into multiple languages. We had the publication of the Milford Public School News, which was very well received, which was also translated into Spanish and Portuguese and published 4 times a year. We're going to look to see if we're going to keep 4 times or maybe jump it up to 6. It's something we're going to look at. The Office of Technology, Grants and Media, and this is Nancy's good work again, provides regular press releases to media outlets. So there's about 3 outlets she regularly releases things to. They're local newspapers, and we tend to get pretty good coverage because of that, and she does a nice job with it. And I'll stop there for that one, although there's a lot of other examples. Continuous learning develops and nurtures a culture in which staff members are reflective about their practice and use student data, current research, best practices, and theory to continuously adapt practice and achieve improved results, and models these behaviors in his or her own practice. I don't even think I'm going to read these because I probably put 20 or 30 examples in the document I shared with you. It's really incredible the professional development that is offered in this district by our internal team and the partnerships we developed externally. I think it's really exemplary, and it really speaks to, I think, the good work of Dr. Consigli, our EL director, Jen Norjanian, again, I'm going to say Nancy Angelini, Lucy Jenkins, our special ed director, our curriculum specialists, Carrie Taylor and Carol Seversky, are all doing a lot of work throughout the year and hitting a lot of different groups, and it's based on what the teachers need, what we see coming down the pike, and things that just improve practice or support different practices. And there's I'd say about 30 examples in the packet that I provided you, and it's not an exhaustive list. It's kind of a pared down list. I picked some things that were actually just highlights. All right, so this is something, and I didn't even tell Craig I was going to share it. I probably should have asked him before I did. I met with our curriculum team and department heads about a week ago, and they did like just a academic exercise where they tried to develop how many initiatives were actually taking place in the district. And the total was more than 50 substantial initiatives happening from pre-K through 12. And we're going to talk about, is this a good thing, bad thing, Are we focusing on too many things? Are there just so many needs that we have to focus on these things? As part of our leadership retreat. But there's a lot of work happening across the district that doesn't actually come here. And I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. And I think there's some examples, but they're not even like, I just screenshotted the top of the chart just to give you a sense. And they also rated them, I've got to open up. Craig, do you remember the ratings? I'm gonna go to the page. I can't read it from here.
Yeah, impact on learning, time commitment, and then where it is in the implementation process. Is it just beginning, or is it we completely involved in it?
And the other piece of it that's interesting is like 1 was like critical basically, and 2 was like pretty important. And I forget the words you actually used. But like out of like the 53 or 54 things they identified, and again, I don't think it's an exhaustive list, only like 3 fell into like the 3 category or the 4 category where it was less important. So, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about. If everything's important, is nothing important, or these like, are all these things essential to meeting the needs of a diverse community in 2023, 2024. All right, so if you want to go to the next slide. So where are we going next? These past 4 years have been chaotic, and there have been significant disruptions to all of our students' educations. We have also seen dramatic increases in our student population and continued shifts in our district demographics here in Milford. Although this past year we saw a return to normal schedules, academic programs, and extracurricular activities, we're still seeing significant mental health issues for all members of our school community, and high rates of chronic absenteeism, again, are challenges that we continue to address. I want to share these 4 areas, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail, but not a ton, that will be like a focus of my attention. Again, the list is not exhaustive, and I think these can kind of morph into potential goals for next year. And whether they're my goals or not, they're still going to be priorities for myself and the district. But development of a new strategic plan, improving attendance and decreasing absenteeism, our facilities, which include the 5 buildings and the surrounding grounds, and the development of a new district website. So our current strategic plan is coming to a close at the end of the 24 school year, and this will require the development of a new plan that builds on our current work, is connected to both our Portrait of a Graduate and strategic pillars, and meets the needs of our students and families. We expect to receive significant feedback and input from all stakeholders on the development of the next plan. This will include students, families, staff, community members, school committee members, and our district leadership team. The plan will be aligned to our strategic objectives of growth-focused instruction, equity and access, social emotional learning, and continuous learning, and these have been consistent for, I want to say, this will be the 8th year that those have been in place, and I think it's really helping because we're seeing alignment. I think better alignment than we've ever had. The new plan will also be directly connected to our Portrait of a Graduate, which includes being a responsible community member, an active communicator and collaborator, a creative problem solver, and a continuous and lifelong learner. And Craig does a lot of really good things, but one of the best things he does is in all his emails there's a connection to the strategic plan and the Portrait of a Graduate. And I think that's really great. Our school improvement plans have been aligned with both the current strategic plan and the recently developed Portrait of a Graduate. Additionally, district-wide departments have also aligned their work to these 2 documents, which I think is good because we're seeing more, I think, purposeful and focused planning in a lot of different areas. I've talked about improving attendance and decreasing chronic absenteeism several times, so I'm not going to beat that dead horse. Facilities, assessment, and the development of the next long-range facilities plan. I think the key piece here that I haven't already said is, again, the next statement of interest for the high school complex. We need to work with our new facilities team and develop the next long-range facilities plan and ensure that we're meeting both the short and long-term facilities needs of the district. The goal is to ensure our students, staff, and families in the broader community have access to safe, well-maintained, and accessible learning facilities. And the last piece is the development of a district-wide website. And our website requires an update and an overhaul. My hope is to start this process this summer. We've been meeting with a potential provider, which is our current group was bought out by a larger company, and they're offering, I think, a really great program to really, kind of completely redo the website, and they've got some great resources to bring to bear. So I think, we're going to be more to come on that, but I think it's a good direction to go in. And I think it's going to bring some expertise that we might not have been able to bring on otherwise. The last piece is, this is the last slide, and this is something, so I had the opportunity to spend the last 3 days with a team from Milford and 7 other high schools in Massachusetts and Connecticut through the Bar Foundation. What the Bar Foundation asked is that minimally that there was representation from the central office and the high school. And of the 8 groups there, I think we were one of like 3 or 4 that actually had teacher representatives too, which is so critical to the process, and they're going to be very embedded in this in this program or this initiative. It's really about reimagining the high school experience for students. And the goal for this year is to learn about where you are and where you want to go, really consider the possibilities, and plan for shifts that will reimagine the high school experience for all of our students. And these past 3 days was the first step in a broader planning and implementation process. But again, like the strategic plan, it'll be critical for us to incorporate stakeholder feedback and input as we embark on this process. Again, the program is sponsored by a grant through the Bar Foundation, and there's a good possibility that the funding and professional development partnership will continue for the next several years as we kind of go down this road. I attend a fair number of conferences and convenings just based on my role, and the quality of program and presenters can vary pretty considerably. The program and process was exceptional. Usually I send texts grousing about something that I'm at to Craig, and I sent something to last night or this morning. I said, "This was unbelievable. It was awesome." And he's like, "Whoa," because it really was. It was great. Our team engaged in high-level and deep conversations, and our thinking was really pushed by the Bar team, each other, and our colleagues. And I think just going through the process with 7 other districts that are many very different settings, I think helps us see our own issues and challenges through the lens of other districts who are facing a lot of the same things that we are. This chart is just one activity, but I'm going to read what was on here because it kind of came out a little blurrier than I thought, which is really an indictment of my picture-taking ability. But some of the things we're kind of talking about and considering, and again, this is very, very early in the process and one exercise, is a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging, meaningful and practical experiences, risk-taking and experimentation, skill application, psychological safety, contagious passion, meaningful and personalized feedback, continuous learning for everybody in the building, build and sustain enthusiasm in teachers and students, high expectation for all, and a belief in what is possible. And as someone who spent a fair amount of time in secondary schools when I was kind of a teacher and a building administrator, this is something I'm particularly passionate about and something I'm very excited to engage in here in Milford. And I think there's a real kind of enthusiasm and momentum. And that's not to say that there aren't a lot of great things happening at Milford High School, but this is to really kind of how can we push us to be a school that you went to, where was it, San Diego this year? We want people visiting Milford High School for the things that we're doing. And that's kind of I don't want to say that's the goal because I don't necessarily want more visitors, but I want to be an exemplar. So I'm happy to answer any questions this evening, and I'm also happy to meet with you individually to discuss any aspect of my self-evaluation or the evaluation process.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that summary. I guess it might be easiest just to go goal by goal so we don't scatter all over the place. Matt, maybe you can go back to goal 1 on that presentation, probably about page 6 or 7. There you go, perfect. So again, goal 1, the driving of the math instruction. Any questions or clarity that basically giving everybody the opportunity just to ask questions and that way everybody could hear that question and that clarity. Obviously that is the goal that was put forth. The status is complete. There are 4 documents that everybody has access to that is evidence towards that. So again, any questions or concerns with that? Not seeing any, so excellent. Moving on to then goal number 2, which is about the attendance. Again, the key actions are there. There are 3 documents that we have for evidence. Any questions or concerns on goal number 2? Go ahead, Megan.
I just had a quick question, Kevin, and I also respect it. It may technically fall outside the goal evaluation period, but I know we talked at a recent meeting about some work that was gonna be done over the summer. I was just curious if you could update us on that.
Yeah, so I think we're looking at August. I think the feedback I got from our buildings is that I think they want to be
Closer to
closer to
school.
school year.
Got it.
So I think we're,
That's still planned.
yeah,
Okay.
that's still in the works. And I think we're gonna try a lot of different things over the next year. I'm gonna focus a lot more on my communication around the importance of attendance. We're gonna do some videos about the importance of attendance. And I think it's gonna be, it's gotta be more than Victor and Dale doing the outreach, because just the sheer numbers of folks that aren't attending as much as we hope they would attend is it's just a huge job.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris.
Brendan?
Yeah, this might be really difficult to answer just because there's probably many different reasons, but is there like a theme as to why more kids are not coming to school that you could like kind of like tease out so far?
Well, I think there's a lot of individual different reasons. And I
Sure.
think the mental health piece ties into it as well.
Sure.
But I would say, like, and I think you could make the parallel to the world of work too, is people were going to school from home, not going to school 5 days a week. And I think a lot of our kids have checked back in and are fully reengaged, but a significantly higher percentage have not. And I think there's, again, a lot of different reasons for that. But I think the national rates, I think I saw something today where it's like the chronic absenteeism rate is up, I think 25 or 30% even over the previous year. So like, even though we came back, the rates aren't getting better, and that bears out in our data too. So it's something that like everybody's wrestling with, and wherever we find a practice that shows any kind of promise, and it looks like it would work here, it could be replicable here, we're gonna look at that and see if it's something that we can do. But like getting kids to school and getting them there consistently is something that if you've ever seen Josh's freshman presentation or the data that he provides, it's so striking that if you come to school, you do well. And if you don't come to school, you don't do well. And I think that's more striking at the high school than it is, in the lower grades. But, I think as the information gets more complex, as the pace picks up, it's just harder to miss time and still, stay on track.
Any other questions on goal 2, attendance? I'm not seeing it. All right. So moving on, goal number 3, from the diversity standpoint. We see the key actions. There are numerous documents for benchmarks and evidence. So any questions on that goal and any of the documentation to support the goal? Not seeing any.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
Oh,
I do have
go
a
ahead,
question.
Megan.
I'm glad that you added, Kevin, sort of the increase in multilingual staff, because to me that's just so incredibly important. When we talk about it in the corporate workspace, what we hear a lot too is sort of like the level that folks are at. I also think we've done a really good job when you think about admin and sort of increasing kind of that presence in buildings. And so I just wanted to sort of give kudos to that, because I think it's been really important. I was curious if you could speak, and I didn't see evidence, I just don't know if I missed it. Have we changed anything specifically in the interview and selection process that you could comment on?
It's more like looking at it's more of an approach than it is like specifically like saying like, it's how like reviewing everything for bias is really what we're trying to do.
So who's doing that?
So I would say the principals, the assistant principals, we're mostly doing the hiring. There's some teacher engagement too, but I would say most of the engagement has been at the administrative level.
Have we provided them tools by which to do that?
Yeah, so DESE and the urban superintendents have provided some documents that we've shared and discussed.
Could you add one?
Yeah, I'd have
That'd
to
be
dig it
great.
out, but I
That's
could,
fine.
yeah.
I'd just be curious what we're
Yeah.
sharing with folks. Okay,
Yeah.
that's helpful. Thanks.
I think I can, I should say.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions on goal number 3? I'm not seeing any. All right, so moving on to goal 4, which is more on the facility side of it. There are a couple documents as evidence to support that goal, which is ongoing.
And I'll provide details on the different projects next.
Yep.
Just-
But no specific questions to, basically, the goal, the benchmarks or the key actions, so just making sure of that. All right, and then, then anything on the focus indicators, the first one was standard 1 from the instructional leadership side. There's obviously multiple bullet points here. Any questions on any of those from a clarity standpoint Obviously, if you have any other clarifying questions, you can always email Kevin on that. But just, like I said, giving everybody kind of the opportunity now. I'm not seeing anything on standard 1, standard 2 from the management and operations aspect of it. Any questions on any of the supporting documents, or not supporting documents, but just kind of supporting verbiage here? Seeing any. And then standard number 3, which is family and community engagement. Not seeing any there. And then professional culture, which is standard number 4. So, all good there. Excellent. Well, very good. We won't go over the future stuff for now. We'll save that as we're developing goals, but we do appreciate that vision of where the outlook is going. Any other, I guess, general questions or anything before we go into kind of the template itself? Not seeing any, so that's good. All right, so thank you very much, Dr. McIntyre. Appreciate the effort in the putting all the evidence in the presentation tonight. Thanks. Turn it over to you, Matt, as far as the template. Matt had some suggestions on a more efficient template, so.
More efficient template. Okay, so essentially what I did, I think I brought this up last time. I'll just summarize it again. The previous review document has everything under the sun from DESI, mostly explaining it to you. I don't think you've seen it yet. All in the focus indicators. It's a giant document to fill out. Not so friendly, whether Google or Word. So I figured it'd be easier for us if we had it in a form style we could just run through. For one, it's clear, it's pared down a bit, so all the pieces you'll see in the form came directly from that document, but they are only the ones that were agreed upon with Dr. McIntyre. The rest has been weeded out. The second reason for switching to a form is ease of the back end piece for whoever compiles, which is more than likely our excellent chair. So it'll dump everything into one spreadsheet where they'll be able to look at it, summarize it a lot more quickly, hopefully, and it should streamline the process more. So I know that Dr. McIntyre reviewed this form. I know that Chris has looked at it, I've looked at it, I think Megan's had a chance to look at it too. So if everybody's good with it, I can add everyone to it tonight and you'll get this email. It's as simple as hitting fill out form. It's going to pop up the actual form and it automatically ties your email, so that's how we know who submitted it. And you just get going. I don't know what this is, that wasn't the last time, so ignore that little piece. And then you're just going to see simply each goal. This is essentially in reverse order from the document we used to see, which the first page was the overall summary and then you had to do all the other pages first. I made it make sense. So it's just simply choosing your answers as you go, and it'll give you all the 4 goals that we just talked about there, and then you can hit next, and you're just gonna essentially fly through this. If you close it, it should save your progress. If you don't, if you don't want to finish, you don't have time to finish it, there is a spot at the end too you can submit it. You'll always have the opportunity to go back and edit it. So I'm sure what'll happen if the deadline is August 11th, I'm sure there'll be a reminder out there potentially to get it done after the 11th. We can shut down response edits. So again, you're just picking your choices here, throwing options in. I'm going to breeze through the rest of this. They're all the same. When we get to the last page, this is essentially the final piece that was page 1 before. It gives the table for you to select different options, and then we get down to the bottom. You have your evaluator comments, which was the big, I think, piece of your opinion and your information, and then you just hit submit, and then I'm just going to show you what you should see. If you're still on the page, you can hit edit response. If you're not there, you get an email rather quickly. And at any moment, you can go in there and hit edit, and you'll go back in, and all of your stuff will be there from before. So again, if you wanted to finish it another time, or if you change your mind or whatever, that's how you go back and do it. Any questions?
So when we hit submit, does it go to anyone else, or does it go to us?
No,
then
it
before?
goes to, so you will get a copy, and this email is going to show you everything that you said,
Okay.
and it's going to go into an Excel spreadsheet. Chris has access to it
Okay.
right now. And then I know in here we talked about submitting to you and to Kevin, we can either forward this email if it's final, or we can just provide access to the Excel spreadsheet for him to see the data there. I don't know what's better. Preferred.
I guess either way is going, it's the same, same information, yeah,
Yeah.
that's going to be there, so, that, in that process to go from what we see here, which normally just sends it to yourself as a copy,
Yeah.
is there, how would that change to go to the superintendent itself?
If you were gonna forward this piece, you would have to manually hit the forward button. and send it
Forward,
to him.
right, yep,
Or if he had access to the spreadsheet itself, he would see whatever submitted answers were there, so the official final answers.
okay.
Is that your final answer?
You have until the 11th to make that.
Yeah, exactly.
So if we did that, it would be after the 11th though, right? Because
Yeah,
if people are
yeah.
going in and making
If you
edits,
wanted-
we
yeah.
don't want people to think something's final, it's not.
Yeah, and I left the edit piece open just in the event. I know that last time I did these, a couple of times I've done this, you do it and then like immediately.
Mhm.
And you have to
Right.
go back in to think about it, reread stuff, so, that's why that option to edit is available.
So now, we all won't have access to anybody else's, like I can't see yours, you can't see mine.
No,
And I'm asking that in the context of the open meeting law, because
that's right,
that would, be, you know, otherwise that would be a deliberation.
correct.
I guess maybe then for my control standpoint, to have everybody individually email that evaluation when they feel it's done to the superintendent. So that way they have control of that document. So they can email the form to themselves if they continue to edit it. And then when they want to do that final push on, on the 11th at 11:59, they can email it that way to him. So does that sound all right to everybody? So that way you're in control of your own document. And then also at that same time, they would also have to email me that same thing. So email me and CC the superintendent or vice versa.
Sure,
Right?
yeah, they can send it to you.
Yeah.
You'll be the one with the access to the backend spreadsheet, which is essentially the database.
Yeah.
So you'll see it
Okay.
in real time.
But I wouldn't have access until, just like as John was saying, from the open meeting law standpoint, I probably should not have I cannot have access until
Yeah.
the 11th, basically, right? Okay.
That's fine.
Just make sure on that. Excellent. Well, no, I appreciate all that effort that went into this. Obviously, I think it's definitely going to be a much more efficient and streamlined process. Any other questions on the form itself? Obviously, I think pretty self-explanatory as it goes through, and it removes all of the extra line items that were not necessarily being used, and as you said, it kind of summarizes everything in a much more quick and efficient way. So,
That's the goal.
yeah.
Yep.
We'll see if it
I can say, I think it's fantastic. I really do. I love it.
Great.
We'll see if it actually helps. It'll be a good test since you did it the old way last year. You can see if it's
Yeah.
faster this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for doing that.
How do we do it so AI just spits out the?
I can show you that too.
So, well, excellent. Again, any other questions? Obviously, if you do have some more questions, certainly Matt is more the keeper of the form on that. So any type of questions, concerns, updates, yeah, please let Matt know. And again, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Matt.
Great. All right then. So let's move on to our facilities update.
Yes,
We have a lot of fields here with these things.
we have a number of quick updates, and I think if it makes sense, I'll just go one by one and take
That'd be
feedback
great.
and questions if that works.
Yes, please.
All right. So first, the Brookside Modular Classroom update. The foundation work, I believe, started today. Again, I've been away, so I didn't get a chance to go over there, but my understanding is they started the foundation work today, and that should take until the end of next week to finish. All units, and I think each classroom is being shipped as a separate unit, will be on site by the end of next week. All HVAC units have been delivered to the local area storage yard. I believe the area still needs to get the full building permit by, I think, early next week, and John could probably comment on that and knows more about that than any of us. And the current plan is to start building install August 7th, and the furniture has been ordered for the classrooms. We're cautiously optimistic that we'll be open and ready for occupancy for the first day of school, but we obviously have contingency plans in place if deadlines are not met, and we'll be kind of watching the day-to-day progress very closely, and I'm probably gonna meet with Vicki early next week to develop a drop dead date where we'd have to kind of implement one plan or the other.
Kevin, can you just review the plan for how the rooms are gonna be utilized? I don't know if you have.
I don't have
If we could
the,
just
I
do
mean,
that for
they're
next
all gonna be
meeting.
classrooms, I think,
Yeah.
various classroom use though.
One's a Miles.
Yeah, one's gonna be like a sub-separate special education classroom. I think we're looking at a couple specialist spaces and then some classroom space, some general classroom spaces, is my understanding. At the next time we
I've
meet,
just been curious, yeah,
I
thanks.
can have that for you. I just didn't have that tonight.
I guess what I was
I'm so
kind of-
focused on the building piece.
No, I totally get that. I think I was kind of getting at item 7B in terms of K enrollment. Should we decide to make a decision there if we had space in that addition to accommodate that is where I was
So
thinking.
yes, that's another discussion point, because I
Okay.
think we have a plan. So there's like kind of multiple layers. It's like a choose your own
Got it.
adventure book to some degree.
Okay,
Is we have a plan for the building if there's an extra kindergarten class.
got it.
With the modulars in place at the beginning of the year, we have a plan with the extra kindergarten in place, you know, for like, and it should be a short period of time if we
Mhm.
do have to do something a little different. But yeah, so we have all those things in place and
Okay.
and ready to go. So when you say like, every classroom's impacted by it to some degree,
Sure.
and so it's just, you know, who's gonna have to kind of move once the, you know, if
Right.
the
If it
modulars
wasn't
aren't
ready.
done on time,
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
thanks.
So quickly, what was the date that they're hoping to have the foundation done by?
The end of next week,
End of
which
next week.
is, so a week from Friday, so
Okay,
August.
August 1st.
Is it 4th? I think it's
Fourth.
August 4th, yeah.
Or,
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Excellent. Matt, you had a question?
Yeah, the only comment I had, so occupancy expected by day one of school, is that including time for the teachers that are shifting to get all their stuff in and ready for an open classroom?
Yeah, so based on like, and I'm just gonna shift back. Robin keeps moving with me.
Sorry.
Based on what the timeline of the like our target date was like August 16th or 17th, 15th, 16th or 17th in the contract. But if it goes beyond that, we'll bring resources to bear to make sure that people are supported through the process. So like if we have to move, we're gonna have folks, you know, there's a lot of things we can do, there's some things we just can't do for teachers.
Right.
But as much as we can do to support them, if we have to move them after the first day of school, we're gonna provide that.
Excellent.
Maybe, John, maybe answer this higher level wise. Once they're put in place, I'm assuming there's an inspection process and an occupancy permit that needs to happen, or does it?
Yeah.
It does not, so.
Yeah, no, it does.
And
There's,
is that your town department or
no, that's,
state?
no, that's
Yeah.
my department.
Okay.
It's, you know, there's inspections along the way. There's the, you know, the excavation inspection, the foundation inspection. Where they're modular buildings, they're gonna be registered under the state program, as a registered manufacturer. But there's still field inspections for plumbing, wiring, sheet metal, everything,
Yeah.
building.
So it sounds like we can go to the top of the list hopefully quick, is it?
Oh, yeah, there won't be any delays because of the Milford Building Department, I can
There we
assure
go.
you that.
No, it's just, yeah. And I think that, it's good to know that it's under the Milford Building Department and
It
not
is.
statewide, so
Yep.
that hopefully can help expedite that process, so, good.
One more, curiosity for John, does that occupancy permit apply only to the addition, or once they start connecting to the entire building, that would be?
No, the occupancy, certificate of occupancy is for that portion of the building. And that's one of the stipulations, when you issue an occupancy certificate, you have to stipulate what portion it's for. I mean, in a new build, it's for the entire building, and this one, there's already a CO for the building. This one just covers that portion. And it's, you know, that's built under the 9th edition building code. The renovation was done under the 6th edition, so
Oh,
there would be different regulations, code regulations that would apply to, you know, there might be something more stringent to the new part that doesn't apply to the old part.
got it. Very good.
Any other questions on Brookside modular? I'm not seeing any.
All right, Milford Turf Field and Track Project. There's been significant progress on the turf field at Milford High School, and the field and the logos and the color scheme, as I said earlier, just look fantastic. I think it's coming out very, very nicely. I do not have a clear timeline for the track, but when I do, I will share it with the committee. I've heard a couple things, but I haven't got anything solid yet. The one thing I want to emphasize is we had an issue with folks walking out on the track with signs up saying this is a construction zone, and we had to put padlocks on all the gates. The track in particular, it's so important. There's like a 3-week period that once the track is laid down, people really can't go on the track, or it has like a very negative impact on the product. And so I'm going to be sending some things out, but I'm going to ask anybody who's listening, anybody in this room who's connected to youth sports or, you know, youth programming, or know people that walk along the track and can just send it to your friend group even. it's so important that people don't go on there during that period. I'm gonna specify when that happens, once I have a better sense of when it happens. And even the field, like, and I haven't gotten as clear of, I do not put your foot on the field kind of thing, but for the track, I know it's critical. So, more communication to come on that, and as we get a sense of when, like, you know, and I think once they finish the field, they're gonna start ripping up the track, is my sense, and then there's a number of factors that go into installation, and there might be a little bit of a gap with the installation of the track, but there's a 3-week period where people just cannot go on the track, and we're gonna have, and we may have like practices going on and things, and there's apparently bridges you can put up, so people don't walk on the track, they walk over the track onto the field. And I know Pete and Kathy are working with the contractor on that piece of it, so we have a few different options. So, more to come on that, but good progress there. And there's no kids that won't be in classrooms if the track isn't done in particular. I think the field will be ready for practices is what it's definitely looking like, from what I'm hearing.
Any questions, Megan?
Yeah, sorry, Kevin, is there something that maybe the police could assist, if they may have some special signage we could throw up there to really discourage?
We have, I mean, I think we can talk to them about, but our signs are like bright yellow and very like,
Huge.
yeah.
Ours just might not be
Can't
as
miss it.
enforced,
Yeah.
like, as appreciated as something
Like
that-
under
that's-
penalty of death, something like
that's-
that.
Just to really
Can we electrify
reiterate
the
the
fence?
importance. And then I guess,
Yeah.
I'm confused, was the original plan, like, what was the original plan regarding when the track would be done, and how off of that plan are we? I haven't heard.
You know,
that
I'm
there's
not,
been
I'd have to
delays.
look at that. What I'll do is I'll send you guys a follow-up email in terms of like what the original timeline was.
Is it a new change? Because it's on the agenda, I mean, we plan to talk about it tonight.
It is, I just didn't get that piece of information.
Okay,
that's all.
yeah, I'd appreciate an update on
Yeah.
that.
But I feel good about the progress overall there.
But was there a delay that you're aware of?
That I'm not sure about. I don't know if there's like, there's some extra piece
Who's
of it.
overseeing it?
It's kind of Kathy and Peter.
Okay,
But I'll get that to you.
thanks.
Yep.
I guess, from a general standpoint too, when I did have a very quick conversation with Pete, it did sound like when you do the track that weather is very much a factor. So obviously right now, we've had a lot of these thunderstorms, so that's impactful on the timing of it. So they're looking ahead at kind of, there are certain timeframes that are better suited in certain months. So I think that we won't necessarily see the track done right away, that the focus is on the turf. The good part is obviously the track isn't really needed until the springtime. So it won't impact any of our fall sports programs. So it sounds like turf
That's-
first.
That's 100% true. I just
Yeah.
don't know like the. I
Yeah,
haven't gotten
turf
a clear
first,
timeline on
and
it.
then mid-fall to late fall timeframe would be more on the track side of it, sounds like.
Got it, sorry, bear with me, Chris. So would you close down the whole thing again?
I didn't get into that
Okay.
level of
I
detail with
just
Pete.
appreciate an update to
Yeah,
understand
right.
kind of mechanically how we.
There
envision
Yep.
may
Yeah.
be some limited use of like, it might just be like varsity and sub-varsity practices that happen there during that time period.
Yeah.
And we may not allow anybody else on the field, or we may even limit the practices on that field. It just, and again, that piece, so I don't wanna like panic
Okay.
anybody out there.
No, just if you're having a hard time keeping people off and it's locked, to
Yeah.
me, you're
Yeah.
gonna have a very hard time when the turf is open.
Unfortunately, there was a nice sign, but the gates were open for the workers. So I think
Oh,
people
got it.
just assumed that they could utilize the track because only the turf was
Got it.
removed. Hypothetically.
My other question, like, kind of like with this, let's say like soccer practice is out there, someone kicks a soccer ball onto the track that's just been refinished. Now the bridge to get onto the field makes sense, but how do you retrieve that soccer ball? It's in the middle of the track.
And I've got a sense that they're gonna give us some guidance around that.
Yeah.
You know, they might have some kind of, like a
Like,
broom or
yeah,
something.
like a
that's just
couple brooms
That-
duct taped
yeah, like,
together.
I don't, yeah, that
Sure,
part
yeah.
I don't know. When I get more clarification on
Yeah.
that piece of it, I will definitely provide it not only to the committee, but
Yep.
to the broader community.
'Cause that'll be like really good education for the athletes and the coaches too, just to really drive that home.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, and we may have to lock the gates during that time period.
Sure.
When we're not, like, whoever we say, hey, these groups can use it during this like 2 or 3 week period, we may lock it in the times when,
Sure.
you know, we're not using it.
Will it affect phys ed classes at all?
No, because phys ed has a lot of different places where
Where
they
they
can
can
kind of
be.
run their programs, yeah.
Sorry, now I apologize, Kevin, if I miss it. Is the turf done?
The
No.
turf is close, I don't think it's completely done, but it's
Okay.
very close.
That's close.
So everything I see out there is for the track?
Not everything.
That's the old turf.
So like,
What do I see
so
out
I
there?
think like the rubber pellets are
Yeah.
like right by the softball field right now, and I don't know what the other bags are around
Got
there.
it.
Yeah.
That's all pellets.
That's all pellets,
That's,
yeah.
so what's on the backstretch of
Yep,
this
that's all,
track,
those are all pellets.
that's pellets that were removed.
Okay, those are the old
And then I
So when your
noticed-
kids bring
yeah.
like, you know, like
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
300
Totally.
pellets off of them, it's a
I'll bring
very
'em back.
small, it's a
Yeah.
very small percentage of what's actually out there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other questions on the turf field and track? Obviously, there's a few I's to dot, T's to cross on the timeline, but we'll get ahead of that then. All right, moving on.
All right, general summer construction update. I'm going to highlight 4 kind of major projects, but I also want to talk a little bit about
Do you
what.
want to go softball lighting, or did you
Oh, I'm
wanna
sorry.
do-
Craig was going to do
Yep.
softball later. That's why
Okay.
it's not on my list.
Okay.
All right, so softball lighting, all the materials are ordered. The contractor for the job is actually the contractor that's doing the field. So once they're done with the field, they're gonna move over to the softball lighting. It should take 5 to 10 days to finish. They're looking at somewhere second to third week in August to be done, wrapped up, started and wrapped up.
That's exciting.
That's exciting.
Any questions, softball lighting? Not seeing. All right. Extermination process at Shining Star.
That's with termites too, just to be clear.
Yeah.
So a team from the pest company looked behind the walls at Shining Star, and there was no structural damage, which is good news. We're currently on a maintenance plan for the termites with the pest control company. They'll be out checking regularly and giving updates to Carlos Painting, our facilities.
All right. So they still, I know that they thought the source was out in the playground area. Are they,
I think that's still the case, is
Yeah.
my understanding,
okay.
because I think that that's where, but I think with the baiting, they're gonna get a real sense of where the
Yeah.
termites are
Yeah.
hitting the baits.
Okay, so as of right now, there's a process to kind of mitigate it, but we still don't necessarily know where the source is.
I think they're pretty certain it's under the playground, but there could be multiple nests too.
Okay, all right, but the good news is
There's certain
structural
one nest
damage.
that I believe located under the playground. There
Okay.
could also be other nests.
All right, excellent. Any questions on Shining Star termite extermination? Not seeing any, all right, so now Jenna, on to the general
perfect.
summary.
Perfect. And I just had these in the wrong order
No worries.
on my notes. So to say it again, I'm just going to hit 4 quick major projects. There's a big painting project taking place at Stacy where they're hitting all the hallways. I think it's just the second phase of kind of, I think, brightening up the middle school. I think the floors have made a huge difference. I think the painting will be a really nice touch. Carpet removal at Brookside to tile, that's been going on throughout the summer. So Brookside's been a very busy place between the modular project and the carpet removal. We started a new copier lease, so all copiers were picked up and replaced with new models at the close of school. And we're all getting used to the new copy machines. The Woodland Playground upgrade and repairs are taking place at the end of August. And those are the big projects, and there's some other projects going on. But it's important to note that each school is fully cleaned by our custodial team and cleaning contractors, and again, depending on the building during the summer months. And what that entails is like every room is pulled out into a hallway, the floors are cleaned, all the surfaces are hit, and it's a pretty extensive process that takes like the entire summer. So, for example, because of all the activity happening at Brookside this summer, all of our elementary summer programs are basically taking place at Woodland. And so we had to be very kind of strategic about how we were kind of addressing Woodland. And, we hit a floor very early in the summer. Programming took place there. We'll do another, hit on that floor, and then we're hitting the other floors as different programs end or stop. But it's a lot of work that our custodial team does every single year, and they do a really, really nice job.
Any, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, maybe just a quick question, Kevin. Are we fully staffed on the custodial front?
If we're not, we're real close.
Okay.
There might be like one position that we're still
Okay.
looking for somebody, but we're real close on the staffing side there.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions from the general general projects going on while school's not in session? I guess, are we building out any new classrooms? I know that's always been something that we always seem to
Yeah,
find,
not-
try to find space and,
Not this year. I think part of it is because we're adding the classrooms at Brookside, but also we're running out of space in our
Mhm.
buildings to add, additional classrooms. I
Right.
think we've kind of maxed that out.
okay.
There might be a spot or two, like in this main hallway, where we might be able to pick up, like,
Yeah,
two
that's why I wasn't
classrooms.
sure, I know sometimes we start
Yeah.
eating into the media centers and
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
cutting
think-
down on bigger labs to make 2 classrooms out of them, so I was just kind of curious, are we, are
We're
we?
close to maxed out. I don't want
Yeah.
to say like,
Yeah.
Carlos might have a different eye and might
Mhm.
be able to say, hey, what about this? But I think we've used most of our internal buildable, additional space.
Yeah.
And there might be a classroom or two we could split either at the high school or the, I don't even think at the middle school, because most of the middle school classrooms aren't, large in size. But the high school may have a classroom or two that we might be able to cut in half if we
Okay.
need it in the future. But I think we're getting at the end of that,
Mhm.
like that pathway where we're going to have to
Yeah.
go out rather than look
Yeah.
internally.
Excellent. So,
Yep.
anything else on?
Not
Any
unless there's questions.
Any other questions? So I guess, I'll just say, publicly, just thank you to the Milford voters and taxpayers, because the Stacy painting project was a capital request that we did at town meeting, so just to say that is being put forth.
And it's making a positive
yeah.
difference too.
Yeah, and that's phase 2 of 2.
Correct.
So, which is great, so, excellent. Thank you, then, so we'll move on to the hiring and staffing update.
I like this better when this is an ensemble cast.
Mhm.
This feels more like a one-man show tonight. All right, so hiring and staffing update. We're down to a handful of open positions that fall under the teacher's contract. I think we're doing very well. And again, hearing from some other districts, comparatively, we're in a really good spot. We will be hosting 2 Milford Public Schools internal career fairs focused on assistants, drivers, cafeteria workers, substitutes, and a few other positions. The principals and directors have done an outstanding job of interviewing and selecting teaching candidates. Again, this has been an incredibly challenging hiring cycle. And we have a lot of positions we have hired for the opening of school. So to date, we've hired 49 new positions. I think that number is eventually going to fall in the mid-50s. There's going to be a little more turnover before the start of the year. There always is. There's always like an August turnover or two. But we're probably going to have, when we do the new teacher induction program, and was it the 23rd and 24th of August, we're going to have over 50 people in the room. We're still going to do the library?
Mhm.
All right.
Less than last year still.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I think we're doing a very nice job of hiring, and the principals and assistant principals who've been involved in the process, as well as some of our CTLs, have been very aggressive in terms of timelines and process. And I think that it's usually, I don't want to say usually, it's always a very thoughtful process.
Any questions on hiring and staffing wise? So, I guess of the new initiatives that we had, do you have a report at all, or could you provide a report, like, hey, here were all the new initiatives, here are the, do we have all those filled, or are
I
we?
think 2 of the positions we're in the process of still filling that were originally like the new positions.
Okay,
The other positions that are open right now are like
just
like
more.
a late retirement or something.
Yeah, or
something else
in,
like that.
they're more the legacy positions.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not necessarily the
Yeah,
new
I can
positions.
probably have something, either whatever meeting we have in August, that'll be pretty
Okay.
easy to pull
Yeah.
together.
I'm just kind of curious, just from the
Yeah.
standpoint of like, all right, yeah, just to kind of refresh us.
Yeah,
around me.
yeah.
Here are all our new initiatives, and just to try to get an idea of if there was something open, even though we've got these new initiatives, they might be difficult to fill, or
Yeah.
other initiatives
And that's
that are
definitely
easy
the
to
case for
fill.
2 of the positions
Yeah.
that we're still working on.
Yeah.
And that's the bilingual adjustment counselors.
Yeah.
And I'm sending out things to everybody I know, or people I don't know, people that love me, people that don't love me, everybody.
Excellent,
All right?
thank you.
All right, so here's the place where we're gonna kind of have to discuss and think a little bit, the kindergarten enrollment. So right now, and our enrollment didn't go up as much as I thought it would. It's 334 as of, I think, yesterday afternoon. And so this means the average class sizes for the 8 classrooms at Memorial is 18.6, and the average class sizes for the 10 classrooms at Brookside is 18.5. which is great that they're pretty close too, because that hasn't always happened. The average additional enrollment from July to October that we've seen over the last 6 years is an additional 40.5 students total.
40?
40, yep.
Thanks.
We have already seen 8 kindergartners enroll in July, which means that there's about 32.5 on average that could be coming in. Now, we haven't grown as much as I thought we would between the end of school and basically the end of July. That could mean that we're going to get a lot of people in August, or it could mean we've done a great job of capturing the kindergarten population in town. So I think the real decision point is knowing that there's going to be 32.5 additional kids potentially coming in based on the last 6 years of history, which would put us at 366, 367 kids. At that number, I'd say we need an additional teacher. If we add like 8 to 10 more kids, we have a low year, we probably would be okay. So I don't know if, Chris, if you want to open it up to the committee to have a conversation based on that information.
I guess.
Is that clear to everybody, like where we're at?
I guess probably the clarifying question is, if you add those 40.5 kids, what does it do to the class averages?
So there's 18 classes total. So you're adding, 2 to 3 kids depending.
All right. And what's our typical cutoff point?
We like to be like
right.
right around 20 or a little below 20 in
Yeah.
kindergarten, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of
Right.
about where we want to be for kindergarten right now. Like 18.6 is a good,
Mhm.
like it's a reasonable kindergarten number. I
Okay.
think you start getting into the low to mid 20s, it gets challenging.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Nikki.
Sorry, so Kevin, just to clarify, I just wanna make sure I heard you. When you said that 40.5, that's literally the average if you look at the past 6 years in that time period.
From July to
That's
October. And basically, if you take the 8 that we've already had in July,
Right,
that average drops to 32.5.
yep, okay. I think I would have a hard time not advocating for it, given how disruptive that would be to a kindergartner in October or November to say, now you're gonna go to this room.
Right.
So my preference would be to add it, but happy to discuss.
Sure. Brendan?
Yeah, I would agree with Megan. I guess my question would be, if we don't get the enrollment, what happens to that teacher? Would we let them go, or would we try to
No, I
purpose them
think
to a different class?
I think what we would probably do is just keep that person in kindergarten currently and just have small class sizes for the year.
Okay.
And then we'd probably do some type of redeployment of an elementary teacher to a place where the class sizes were larger next year. And we do have that right now.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say the same thing, in support of bringing the teacher on worst case scenario, the class size is a little smaller, and I think that's not a bad thing anyway, so. I think the risk of waiting, especially if we get a mid or late August push, is probably worse. I'd imagine it's gonna be even harder to find somebody you want if you only have 10 days to fill a position.
I'm confident we could get a kindergarten teacher if we posted tomorrow that would be of pretty high quality. I think when you get into like September, it changes, because I think people are settled in, even if they've accepted like a teaching assistant job or some kind of support role or long-term sub role, they're kind of committed to that and they're less likely to put an application in.
Rob?
I was just gonna ask, so I'm also in support of adding it. Ideally, we'll still have consistent numbers though at the 2 schools. So is it possible to think
It's-
about that? And
I think if we don't, we've been, I had this theory of action with what we've done with kind of how we've kind of redistricted, which has been a very minor move. And it's really worked out well, because it's the shift that we've hoped to happen has happened. And as the people sitting around this room who've been here for a little while know, it doesn't always work out that way. So I think if we don't gain enrollment, there will be a discrepancy at Brookside. The other issue with Memorial is I don't know if there's a place for another classroom at Memorial, where we do have an ability to add a classroom at Brookside.
Okay. So the Brookside numbers would theoretically be a little lower this year. in
If
kindergarten.
like the numbers,
Yeah.
like if the numbers keep growing as they have,
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be pretty comparable.
Okay.
Cause like the 5 or the 8 have been 5 at Brookside, 3 at Memorial.
Okay.
I think the later students are more likely to come from that area that we redistricted. Not every student, because there's a variety of situations and factors that occur. but I think a higher percentage of the new students are gonna come from the redistricted area and will more than likely go to Brookside. Again, not all, and you never know, because who brings a kindergarten to the community there's a lot of variability to that. But I think there's a higher likelihood of it coming from the area we redistricted, and a higher likelihood of the new enrollees going to Brookside, or a higher percentage of the new enrollees going to Brookside. But there is that danger that if we do that, the class sizes, but again, it's something we would re-evaluate next year, and we might shift a staff member somewhere where they're needed, grade level wise.
And does it happen where new students coming into the district after the start of the school year, are they automatically tried to funnel towards Brookside, or is it still becomes a district line?
We did that a couple of years ago, and now basically what we're saying is that if you're in the walk zone for Brookside, you go to Brookside.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah, I just
There's a
wasn't sure.
bio coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how it affected
Yeah.
busing, that's why.
Yeah, so and that's why, because that way, every kindergartner gets a bus, so
Right.
there's no impact as a kindergartner. But at first and second grade, if we had kids from all over the place, it'd be not so great.
Right. All right. I don't think it needs an actual vote, it's just obviously in support, we put this towards our budget. Certainly, I think there's a majority that have spoken in support of this, and certainly to keep the class size down, especially at kindergarten, which are our first learners in our district, besides Shining Star. So, and myself, just to say that I would be in support of adding on that kindergarten teacher too, because again, it sounds like our numbers are right at that cusp, and with the what we anticipate as additional numbers to our community, our school community, would just be in our student and staff's benefit.
And I just, in full disclosure, there's an unpredictability here. And for our enrollment, if you've been following from the sidelines, there's just been an unpredictability to our enrollment. It was stable last year. It hasn't been the previous 5. If you said, hey, what do you think's going to happen this year? I'm not sure.
Megan?
I don't know that I heard you, Kevin. What's your recommendation? Maybe I should have
I would,
led with that.
yeah, no. I think I agree with the committee that I think it's reasonable to err on the side of hiring somebody now when we have a better opportunity to get a quality candidate, and I think that it's not somebody that would be superfluous in the future, because we always have class size issues at different grade levels at the elementary level, and there's always a chance that even beyond October we could see another big get of students, which even if we didn't need it at kindergarten next year, we've had teachers that have kind of shifted between grade levels because there's been differing needs. So I think it's reasonable to move forward with an additional kindergarten teacher. Short answer.
Circling back to Robin's point, obviously adding if there were no additional students that did come to Brookside, obviously those class sizes would be smaller. Are there any means of additional support that we can offer the kindergarten teachers at Memorial? Do we have that type of bandwidth?
If it gets to a point where there's a huge disparity, there's some creative things we could probably do, like we've done in the past, where we could have new enrollees maybe pop over to Brookside and maybe expand the geographic area,
Right.
which we have done in the past. Sometimes if we have a discrepancy for 1 year, it's not ideal, but it's something that we can correct the following year pretty easily.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns on that? Not seeing so, all right. Well, again, thank you for that update.
Yep.
All right, moving on for the approval of warrants. Craig, you taking care of that?
Yes, sir. We have a number of votes and a personnel update. Let's start with the approval of the warrant. There's 10 warrants in the amount of $2,090,014.72.
All right, excellent, thank you. Looking for approval of the warrant as presented. But a motion by Megan, second by Brendan. All in favor? And that is unanimous.
There's a professional development update that I believe requires a vote
It does.
in the amount of $50,465.20.
Yes, that's what I have also. So looking to approve the professional development in the amount of $50,465.20. Motion by Robin, second by Megan, all in favor. That is also unanimous.
Personnel update is in your packet, and that's just for your information.
Excellent.
The gifts are in front of you.
Yes, thank you. Our,
I have a question, if we can stay on personnel update for a
Yes.
minute.
go ahead, John.
And it comes, to one of the, it's in relation to one of the next couple of items. The bar grant, which we're gonna vote to accept coming up, but I see a number of positions on here, right, that they're mentioned in that. There's, five administrators, 15 teachers, and a couple of building administrators or something. You don't have to tell me now, but can we find out, what are these are stipends, right?
Yeah, so I can answer that, John, pretty quickly. I don't know if Greg, you want to do it.
Go ahead. You did it.
Yeah, it's really stipends for additional work that's happening outside of the school day, and for folks that are traveling to events, both evenings, weekends, and outside of like we had a group of people that went during the summer, and those folks aren't.
Okay, can we get the dollar amounts, either an update via email or something?
I think it's like 3,200.
All right, well, can we confirm?
Yeah, it's roughly 3,200. I can give you the exact
Hold on, let me
number.
see if it's in here.
I didn't see it in my packet.
It's not in this.
Never seen, I think it may only, actually.
It says, I'm looking in the grant.
Yeah, it doesn't give a dollar amount. That's great, yeah.
Well, and that's gonna
Yeah.
lead me to another question during the, when we get to that agenda item, but I thought it was appropriate to ask that here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get the exact number, but it's in the vicinity of 3,200, John.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a look, John, right, there's numerous individuals, but there's no, it just says grant funded,
Yeah.
so, yeah, okay.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? Sorry. So that makes sense to me, Kevin, for people that wouldn't otherwise be working during the summer, but a host of these people are working during the summer. So maybe you could just clarify that, and then
Yeah,
just to be
I
totally
think
transparent, I've
Bar-
never seen your name on a stipend
Yeah,
list
no,
before,
I
so-
agree. So Bar's position is that this is additional work, and that anybody who engages in the work, they want to compensate.
So it's outside of your normal 8 to whatever you're.
I think, I really don't have hours, per se.
Noted.
And if the committee felt strongly, like, don't accept the stipend, I wouldn't, but their position is that, like, you're taking on an additional project. You're doing work that you normally wouldn't do.
Got it.
They talk about compensating everybody, it's just their foundation philosophy.
Okay. It was unusual to me.
Yeah,
But
and
then
I've,
we-
and
I
I've
mean, it's-
honestly never accepted a stipend before.
Yeah, I've never heard of that either, but then we have, 2 building administrators that would be working yesterday, Tuesday, and today.
Yeah, and again, I think that, again, it's the same kind of thing. I think it's they're taking on an additional, pretty significant project is the thought behind the foundation.
And then the teachers, of course, are off, and during the
Yeah,
school year.
during the summer, they're 10-month
Obviously,
employees.
during the school year, they're not gonna be pulled out of the classroom to,
There's probably 4 or 5, I think there's like 3 or 4 people that are pulled out a couple times to do work.
I guess just Josh, when he was in here, talked a little bit about that Bar Foundation. Did we get into the more comprehensive discussion about that, or no? I'm trying to remember. Because if we hadn't, then I'll put it on for a future agenda. I know we'll get to that, but it might be.
Yeah, we can do a whole
You know,
overview of the, I mean, it's kind
what's
of
going on.
a sense of what I just talked about too, is what the project is. It's reimagining the high school experience.
Any other questions on that? Thank you, John, for bringing that to our attention. Not seeing any from the personnel side. So, sure. Yeah, so personnel update. So we'll move on to acceptance of gifts. You have a few gifts here. So we'll roll through those. Our first one, the donor is Celebrate Milford, and the name of the gift is the Milford it's going to go to the Milford Community Use Program. And the purpose is to replace basketball hoops at Memorial Elementary School, and that gift is in the amount of $3,360. So thank you very much to Celebrate Milford on that. The next one is from the Milford Family and Community Network Helpers. The name of the gift is for the Family and Community Network gift. and it is in the amount of $900, and this will be utilized for programs, events, and playgroups. Next gift, again, from Celebrate Milford, which will go to the Family and Community Network in the amount of $2,500, and this will be utilized for programs, events, and playgroups. So thanks again to Celebrate Milford. And the last one is from Kelly Rivera, and that will go to the Family and Community Network in the amount of $30, and again, utilized for programs, events, and playgrounds. So again, thank you to all the generous donors. We really appreciate that. And looking for a motion to accept the gifts. Motion by Megan, second. Sorry about that. Motion by Robin, second by Matt, then all in favor. And that is unanimous. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Sooner or later it was going to happen. Yep. So, all right. So then moving on to approval of grants.
All right, there are 2 grants to be approved. One is from the Massachusetts Life Sciences. I don't remember if it's a foundation or not, but Massachusetts Life Science. There's something else there. And that's for STEM equipment and professional development in the amount of $119,800. I believe $100,000 of it is for equipment, and then the remaining balance of $19,800 is for the professional development.
Excellent. All right.
And then the second is the Bar Foundation one, and that's the one that Dr. McIntyre spoke about, reimagining Milford High School.
Yeah, and that's in the amount of $100,000.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
in the
no
amount of
problem.
$100,000.
Yep.
Yep.
So great.
So I have a question before
Yes.
we go, if I can.
Yes, please.
So this is what I was referring to a few minutes ago. So if this budget's $100,000 and there's, I don't know, $60,000 or $70,000 in salaries, do we have a budget, or what's the rest of the expenses go to? And-
You know, I can get that from
And-
Josh. I
yeah.
didn't do the grant.
Okay.
This year though, John, just to give you a sense, it's considered like a learning and planning year is how the foundation kind of framed it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of like, meeting times, engaging with stakeholders. So I think the majority of it's personnel costs, it's not materials.
I'm going to do these in 2 separate votes, just because there are some questions on these. So, first one, we're looking for a motion to accept the Massachusetts Life Sciences STEM equipment, the amount of $119,800. So, motion by Matt, second by Brendan. All in.
I have a question as now.
Yes,
okay?
go
Okay,
ahead.
Thanks. Sorry, Craig, I don't know, I didn't see it in there. Do you know what the equipment is that we're getting? That sounds really impressive.
It's, I don't
For,
have,
like, for
I
what
don't have
class?
a detail. It's,
Yeah.
it's
Is it, it's not PL?
Tim Walsh, yeah.
But is it Project Lead the Way?
It's some things that we need for, additional things that we need for that.
Got it.
But I don't have the exact list.
Okay, I was just curious. Thanks. Sorry, Chris.
No problem. It's a good time for the question. All right, so motion by Matt, second by Brendan, then all in favor. And that is unanimous. Excellent. All right, and then the next one for the Bar Foundation. Go back to that, sorry. That is in the amount of $100,000. I'm looking for a motion to accept that. As of right now. Okay. Not seeing.
I'll make a motion, but then I still want to talk about
Yeah. So,
it.
all right. So there isn't going to be a motion by Megan. Second by Robin then? All right. And then go ahead, discussion.
So I second you, Kevin, in terms of if this is in any way affiliated with some of the stuff we did in San Diego. Craig, like, their work is amazing. So I think it's great that we're able to access some of this funding. So that's fantastic. I guess I would just like to understand a little bit more as a committee, sort of, I know you haven't been to all the meetings, it's just getting kicked off, but sort of in the course of the 23-24 school year, what would be realistic to sort of expect in terms of output? It just looks like, so just, I'm thinking back, Kevin, to that initiative list you went through and you said, we're focused on these 50 things. We're allocating now a lot of resources to this. So I just like from an expectation setting standpoint to kind of
So I
understand.
think this is going to be kind of the major project for the high school.
Okay.
It's going to be a multi-year project. I was at the event, so the Bar Foundation basically said that, if through the planning process, it seems like it's a good fit, and they said about 90% of the schools they work with, they move forward with funding in subsequent years. I don't have a clear sense of like the timeline. I do know it's multi-year.
Okay.
And, you know, and I think it's a pretty big undertaking. And one of their philosophies, I think they've been doing this work for a while, is, and I think this is the first time they're requiring central office participation for the reason that they want buy-in from the central office for whatever the high school is moving forward. So there's central office representation on the team.
Yeah, I was
Building-
actually curious
building
about that, because
representation.
it looks like in the grant application that Josh called that out, and he had included the literacy supervisor, but not you, and so I was curious how we ended up in a different place.
I don't know.
Okay,
I think they were just looking for someone to participate. I said, because I've been interested in high schools and secondary, I said I'd gladly participate in the project.
got it. So the reading piece isn't critical for, I don't know
Well, I
what the
think
work is.
there's representation from all the departments at the high school. I think they were very thoughtful in terms of that. I can't say why they made a decision about one person versus another.
And whose decision was that?
You know, I think it was Josh's, but I'm not entirely sure. The emails were coming from him.
Any other questions, Megan? You want a
I'm just
moment to
not-
look through stuff?
I wasn't sure who the
Yeah.
reading, I'm not familiar with all the names, so I
Yeah.
apologize. I wasn't sure who the reading,
That'd probably be Carol Seversky.
so she's not on the list was my question.
No, I don't think Carrie Taylor is participating in
No,
this.
She's
Carrie's
on.
on the
Oh,
list.
is she? Okay. I don't have it in front of me, so.
I was just looking to better understand the universe of folks,
understand,
that's
yeah,
all.
and I
It
think-
really stood out to me, Kevin, and I'm not trying to, just seemed unusual, just trying to better understand it.
I think you and John have some concerns that,
I think the foundation is doing exceptional work, and I am
Exactly.
grateful that they will be funding us
Yeah.
to navigate us through this, so I want that
Yeah.
message to be clear,
exactly,
so.
no, appreciate that. All right. Any other questions before we go to vote?
And I don't want anything holding up the process. So if I need to step back from it, if people feel uncomfortable with that piece of it, I'm happy to do that. I'm just like, I just agreed to be part of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was just curious to me, Kevin, it looked like we had nominated someone else, just to understand.
And again, I don't know
that's
if it
all.
was an
not
availability
interested.
thing or
Understood.
that was an initial application and they went through some iterations. I'm not sure, because I
Gotcha.
wasn't involved like as directly in that part of the process.
So it was a motion by
Yep.
Megan, second was Robin. So any other discussion? Not seeing any, so then all in favor this time? So, all right, so all in favor? Yeah, okay, actually, sorry. All in favor, I'm gonna hold my hand down. All right. It's gonna be 5-4. I'm gonna abstain at this time. All right,
So what was the vote? Just 'cause I jot this down. 5 in favor and 1
Sorry.
abstention? And
Yes.
2 abstentions? One
yes,
abstention.
one abstention.
Okay.
Sorry. All right. Excellent. All right, then, and actually, just quickly, because we did, this grants was new for approval. Megan, can you give just a quick, I guess, overview of that? Probably should have had you do this before,
I would be happy to do
but.
that next time, Chris, because I
Okay.
would just pull the policy
Pull the
and
policy.
just read the
right,
policy, so we
so
can all be, so
all
we
we
can add
know
that
is-
to the next agenda.
Tonight's approval of grants was a policy,
Yes, and what.
following a policy.
What we used to do
Yeah.
is Nancy would come in at the end of the year and sort of list them all, and
Yeah.
so we just asked to get them more timely, so we
Okay.
weren't waiting till the end, so we were just doing
Perfect.
it on a more frequent basis.
Nope, that works. Excellent. All right. Moving on to subcommittee updates. Any subcommittees that have met? I didn't think they would be. And then moving on to future agenda items. Robin, I do have your therapy dogs on there. We'll hit that in September if that's okay
Yeah,
with you in
sounds
that first time frame. And do we need to meet first subcommittee-wise on that?
I
Or
think at this point, we just needed to do a second read on it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so we'll put
I can
that-
double check, but I'm pretty sure that's just where we're at.
we're at
Maybe
the second
it
read
is,
then.
so.
All right, so maybe we can hit it for the August meeting
Yeah.
too. So that way we can hit it before the school year. All right, we'll do that then. I'll put it for August. So, Matt?
Not an agenda item, more of a request for subcommittee with the facilities. I think Kevin mentioned it earlier about meeting with Carlos to get his opinion so far on what he's found and some of the projects.
Yeah, so I want to reach out for dates on that, because there's a few things that I want you guys to engage with.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, any other thing else? I know, also I have community use, adding that member. I delayed it for this meeting just because we're in the middle of summertime. I know, Megan, you had, thought it best to have people come in, which I agree with, so I figured probably wait till September timeframe, if that's kind of the in the best interest of the community overall, just being that it's summertime. So that, and then we'll get an update from community use. And the other thing I'm just kind of jotted down, Kevin, look towards you, is whether or not maybe in that first meeting in September, a kind of like almost like a readiness report from each school, just saying, you know, all the inspections were done as far as elevators, playgrounds, fire systems, right? I think that we found that recently with our new facilities manager, that he found a few things lacking. So I think it would be in the best interest for our committee that as the students enter the schools, that there's in a sense a readiness report that has been done, that they've been thoroughly cleaned and inspected, and that they're safe for our kids.
Yeah, and that'd be a good opportunity to meet Carlos.
Yep. Yep, and I think breaking it down school by school, people kind of.
Who might be the most enthusiastic human being on the planet.
Yes, exactly. Put him on the clock, him and Pete. So, excellent. All right. Anything else? Not seeing anything, so perfect. All right. So that brings us to adjournment. I want to thank everybody again being here in the summertime. The new seating arrangement. Thank you to Matt for plugging in on our display here and utilizing technology. The hope is to be able to utilize that a little bit more. Sitting here, I can already kind of think about moving some seats around and all that, so the lines of sight are a little bit more collaborative. So we'll work with that, and of course we'll take any feedback on that. But again, thanks, Matt, for getting that going. So at this time, this will be ending the open session of our meeting. We will not in. Actually, I don't even need to do that. So just looking for a motion. I'm reading off my old notes. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion by John, second by Megan. All in favor. That is unanimous. Wrong set of notes. Thank you, everyone.